have a proper inclusion and belonging culture in your organization, you need to look at all the different non-dominant groups. And, you know, we're talking about one particular non-dominant group a lot at the moment, and we do need to, there's good cause for it. But it's actually about raising awareness about the way we interact with individuals and how to make the most of those connections with people from all different groups, from diverse groups. And it's about how we relate to different groups in our communities, about how dominant cultures and structures and ways of making decisions and communicating can exclude certain groups, and then putting in place what's required so that they don't feel excluded. So there's an individual level, there's kind of a social impact level, and a systemic level. Ultimately, what that's all about is creating an open and trusting environment in which you have psychological safety for everybody, in which you have a sense of value being produced for the individual, the social group, and for the organization. And you have a sense of connection between everybody who's in the organization. So if you know, there are organizations I've worked with that have had global like big disasters that have had a global impact, and those situations could have been saved if the person in the boiler room had the confidence to speak up.
That's what you're talking about in terms of psychological safety. I mean, that's something I think is really crucial within any, as a foundation measure within any kind of corporate culture space.
This really shows up in Black Lives Matter, but the biggest thing is to listen, to encourage people to participate, and for them to experience that they're heard. And that's also an aspect of psychological safety. It's an aspect of connection and value, and those are the three things that we think are core for you to achieve if your cultural transformation program is going to be successful. One of the first things we do with our clients is really explore, what do you mean by equality? What does equality mean to you? What does diversity mean to you? What does inclusion, and have really create a safe space. So our you know, obviously organizations can do that in-house, but the skill we bring is creating a safe space in which those conversations can take place, because those are challenging conversations. You need to make it level appropriate as well. So, you know, when we're working with theatres, for example, where you've got volunteer staff, where you've got people who work in the front office, people who are ushers, you want to be able to have those conversations in a way that everybody can engage and not make the language exclusive. The theatre we worked with, for example, we worked with their whole employee base. It was a mid-sized organization. To commitment that the organization showed in having all those people share in the creation of those definitions, the definition of equality, diversity, inclusion, and belonging, and do that in a sensitive way, in a way that was safe for everybody, whether they were an usher, a volunteer, or the chief exec. And obviously, if it's a larger organization, you're going to have to do that in chunks. You're going to have to do that. I start with the senior team and then roll it out, and in a way that everybody had a voice. So it's making sure the loudest voice gets heard, because sometimes, you know, people who speak a lot, we switch off to.
Yes.
You know, and also making sure the quietest voice in the room gets heard and everybody has an input, because once you have an input, you start to feel like you have a sense of, I'm free to be myself, I belong here.